And you know, the Oscars this year was a lot about second chances. When I think of this year's Oscars, the first thing that comes to my head is Everything Everywhere All at Once. The night that the nominations were announced, they actually were up for 11 awards, and I just remember thinking, like, oh my god, like, that's insane. At that point, I hadn't actually seen the movie, so I think that, you know, that moment was really like it for me. I had always wanted to see the movie, but I wasn't able to see it in theaters, and so I was like, I have to see this, and so I did. You know, and then the night of the Oscars, when they actually won, I think it was seven of the awards, I just remember feeling like so happy. I think that the entire cast and crew, and everyone involved was just so genuine, and you know, that whole event seemed more like a party for that film than anything else. And I don't know, I get very I feed off of energies, and I feel like, you know, seeing them celebrate and just be so proud in that moment, I couldn't help but feel proud myself. Even though I had absolutely nothing to do with it, all I did was watch the movie, I still felt like I was a part of it, which was great. And then after that night, finding out that it's actually the most awarded film of all time, that's just, you know, insane, and it made me feel even more proud and happier, because it really is such a great movie. I mean, when the trailer dropped, it was insane, and I knew right then and there, like, this is going to be huge, and I think everybody did. You know, and then actually watching it, it was so much more than you could ever expect. I mean, it was so beautiful, not just visually, but, you know, the emotional intimacy in that movie was just, like, everybody could relate to it. And I think that that's a very unique thing for a film, to cover so many corners. So yeah, it definitely did not surprise me that Everything Everywhere All at Once was not only up for so many awards, but that they won so many awards. That entire cast and crew is just incredibly talented, and they deserved every second of recognition that they got. You know, and I'm excited to see what they all do next, especially Ke Huy Quan. You know, his story alone is just so, it's so amazing, because I'm pretty sure we all grew up watching him in Indiana Jones or The Goonies, and if you're too young to watch those things, maybe your older siblings or your parents watched that. I definitely did watch those growing up. And you know, to see him and hear his story about, you know, being in that spotlight and then not doing it for, you know, the rest of his life up until this point, it was very inspiring to see that, you know, if you want something, you can go for it.
All right, so these are my thoughts on the Oscars this year. I have all the categories to the left, so excuse me if I keep looking down, but that's where they are. So I'm just going to kind of go through them in order and just go from there. So actor in a leading role went to Brendan Fraser, which I am so happy for him for a couple of reasons. One, as far as like his Hollywood career, that dude went through the ringer. the fact that he had to go away for such a long time for, you know, coming out and being like, hey, I was sexually assaulted, is a real shame. So this being his huge comeback role, he absolutely knocked it out of the park. I was rooting for him. I'm such a fan of him. He was fantastic in the movie. And most importantly, he beat out Austin Butler as Elvis. I can't begin to explain how annoying that role was to me. The movie itself I did not like, which I'm in the very, very, very small group of people who say that. But Austin Butler just not dropping the Elvis thing really annoyed me. So I'm super stoked for Brendan Fraser. He deserves it 1,010%.
The award for Best Actor, again, did not surprise me. To be fair, I hadn't seen any of the movies in this category, including The Whale. I did not see it. I still haven't seen it. What I have seen is clips of the film. I've seen clips of the film. So did it mean a lot to me in that moment? Yes and no. No, because I didn't see the movie, but yes, because I've been following the story of after filming. You know, him at the Cannes Festival, Brendan Fraser at the Sundance Film Festival. I believe it was the Sundance Film Festival. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, Brendan Fraser, when he got that standing ovation for The Whale, the first time I saw that video, I cried. I cried like a baby. Because, again, Brendan Fraser is an actor that I grew up on. He was a heartthrob, but he was also just very much a sweetheart. You wanted to root for the guy, and I think we all did. And so for him to come back the way that he did, I think was, amazing, and definitely a tearjerker for sure. So that being said, the day, the night of the Oscars when he won the award, no, I hadn't seen the film, but his speech was so sweet. And the entire campaign of this, the film The Whale, the entire Oscar campaign was that, it's Brendan Fraser's second chance. I still have not seen the film. I want to, but I don't, because every person I've talked to that has watched this movie said that it ruined their life. I like to think that when someone says that, that means like I should definitely watch that film. Because any movie that invokes like that kind of emotion, I am all here for it. Like any strong emotion, whether it's like love, fear, anger, hurt, anything, I'm like, yes, I need to see that. I need to be a part of that experience. However, I saw the final clip of The Whale on TikTok. Almost zero context. I just watched it just to see. I knew very little what the movie was about. But, he won Best Actor, so I wanted to, give it a watch. Not even like 30 seconds in, I'm sitting on my living room floor, sobbing, blubbering, snot, tears all down my face. I can't control myself. I have zero composure. I am in the fetal position crying. That scene messed me up. It messed me up, It gave me a lot to think about in my own personal life, my own relationships, my own familiar relationships. I'm getting like tearing up now. It really did invoke something in me, like everybody who watched it said. So, I definitely think I have to give it a watch now.
Actor in a supporting role going to Ki Hai Kwan. Again, another guy who just totally mistreated by Hollywood. he was working pretty consistently for such a long time and then disappeared because for the longest time there was no Asian representation in Hollywood. So the fact that he was able to make this big comeback and become a part of this movie, that is such a big deal, and I will talk about that more later. I'm so proud of him. I could not be happier for him. He seems like such a genuine guy.
When it came down to actress in a supporting role, I actually was surprised. I knew, once again, Everything Everywhere All at Once was going to win. You know, this was a category that had two actresses in the same film, Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu. Now I love Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, she even said it herself. She's a Nepo baby, but she's a very iconic Nepo baby. She definitely made a name for herself in the industry. But I did not expect her to get it. I definitely think Stephanie Hsu's performance was beautiful. I couldn't imagine anyone else being in that role. I think that she definitely deserved more recognition. But at the same time, she's very young and she will absolutely have more opportunities. I know that this is not the only nomination for her and she will definitely get her win someday. But actually, I really thought it was going to be Angela Bassett to win this award. Because, I mean, Black Panther alone, but her role in Black Panther was earth-shattering. I mean, the woman gave me chills before I even saw the film, and all I did was see the trailer and that, you know, gut-wrenching monologue she gives about losing her family and saying, haven't I given enough? I mean, everyone felt that. Everyone felt her struggle, but also her power in that moment. And I do not understand how she didn't get it. And I could tell that she felt the same way based on her reaction. And you know what? I think a little healthy stubbornness could be a good thing. You know, she deserved it. She knew she deserved it, and she wasn't afraid to show it. And I think that is very iconic.
Actress in supporting role, that's a little tougher for me to totally be happy about. Jamie Lee Curtis is a fantastic actress. Should she have won an Oscar already? For sure. Was this necessarily her Oscar-winning role? I don't know if I feel that way, especially when you look at her competition. You know, she won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and in the same movie, you have Stephanie. I feel like it's pronounced Hsu. Excuse me if it's not. Who I think was the better supporting actress, but she was the younger actress. And a lot of the times, you know, you look at Leonardo DiCaprio winning for Revenant. Eventually, it's like, okay, this person has not won an Oscar yet. It's time to let them win. So it's almost like a Lifetime Achievement Award or just like a seniority award. The only other person in that category who I felt like deserved it and didn't get it, and I understand why because it's the Oscars, is Angela Bassett for Wakanda Forever. And I get it. It's a Marvel movie. You know how the Oscars are, and they like to turn their nose up to good roles, even though it's, you know, just because it's in a Marvel movie, then it's like, why does this deserve an Oscar? It's still fantastic acting. You know, the biggest example of that is Adam Sandler not being nominated for Uncut Gems, or Uncut Gems not being nominated for anything back in 2019, 2020. The Oscars just, they matter, but they don't because they pull stuff like that. And that's when they stop mattering. And then actress in a leading role going to Michelle Yeoh. Again, absolutely nailed the role. Uh, looking at the other people who are nominated for this, there's some really, it wasn't tight competition in my opinion. I thought it was either going to be Michelle Yeoh, Kate Blanchett for Tar, or Ana de Armas for Blonde, because like Ana de Armas, in my opinion, saved that movie. That movie was mediocre, but she was fantastic in it, so she carried it for sure. But end of the day, Michelle Yeoh, great actress, great part in a great movie. It's the perfect trifecta. You couldn't go in there not thinking it was going to her.
When Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress, I was not surprised by that. I knew she was gonna win. The second that movie finished, the second I finished watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, I knew she's got it. She's gonna sweep the entire awards, all the award shows, which she did. And I knew that she was gonna take this one home, and of course she did. And she looked fabulous while doing it. Her speech was so sweet. And it was funny, she added that little dig to that TV anchor who said that, women pass their prime at a certain age, which loved her for that, because do not let anyone tell you, first of all, that you're past your prime. What does that even mean? But more importantly, don't let anyone try to tell you you're something that you're not, because you know who you are, and if you know that you're fully capable of doing something that you want to do, then do it. So, loved her for that. I thought she was amazing. The very first thing I actually ever saw Michelle Yeoh in was Crazy Rich Asians. And, and then I found out like more about who she is and what she's been in, and she's just iconic. But so Crazy Rich Asians was the first thing I ever saw her in, and while her character was like tough at times, it was tough in a good way. I mean, that opening scene where she like fired that hotel manager and all, so good. Boss lady. She's a girl boss. Loved that. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that she won, because come on, it's Michelle Yeoh.
Animated feature film, super stoked that Pinocchio won. That's the one I wanted to win. Guillermo del Toro is a genius. It was such a fun take on Pinocchio. Same story, same characters, slightly darker. And in a year where we got like 4 Pinocchio movies, this one was for sure the best. The only other one coming into this that I actually saw was Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which was a beautiful movie. I don't know if it necessarily counts as animated, but sure. It was predominantly live action, but the main character was CGI, I guess, so it's animated. I heard Puss in Boots was very great. I didn't really hear much about the Sea Beast, and I heard Turning Red was pretty good too. But I'm really happy that Guillermo del Toro won another Oscar. Cinematography, All Quiet on the Western Front won, and in this category it should have. Tar, Empire of Light, Elvis, and Bardo, False Chronicle of a Handful of Truths were the other movies in this category. All Quiet on the Western Front was beautifully shot. However, there was a movie that I feel got snubbed that should have won the Oscar. Not just been nominated, but should have won, and that was The Batman. Say what you want about superhero movies in the Oscars, I get it, but when you break down on a technical level how that movie was filmed, it was beautiful. The shots in that movie are insane. It was done so well. And the Oscars being the Oscars just said, forget about it. So I was pretty disappointed in that, especially when The Joker was nominated a few years back and won a couple things a few years back. So I feel like Batman kind of got screwed over in that sense. Oh, and I will say the Daniels winning Best Director huge. Again, they won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and beating out Steven Spielberg is not a thing to just like turn your nose up to. That's a huge deal, and they deserve it. Spielberg is Spielberg, and he's a legend. I wouldn't necessarily say The Fabelmans is one of his best works of art, but I will say that Everything Everywhere All at Once was beautifully directed and deserved Best Picture, going up against All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, which did not deserve a nomination, but whatever. Banshees of Inisherin, which is fantastic. Elvis did not deserve a nomination. Fabelmans deserved the nom, in my opinion. Tar for sure. Top Gun did not. Triangle of Sadness, I fell asleep watching. I think it was fine, but it wasn't great. And Women Talking was very good. But Everything Everywhere All at Once, sweeping at the Oscars, means a lot. Seeing underrepresented people in Hollywood basically take the Oscars over is such a big deal. We saw it with Parasite. We saw Crazy Rich Asians get a lot of representation. We're seeing it in the African American community more and more. So getting these movies and seeing that these people are real stars. I forget which awards event it was, but the actor whose name is escaping me right now, who plays the grandfather, he reminisced about his first time being in a movie, and half the Asian characters were just white dudes with their eyes pulled back, wearing makeup. And he was one of few Asian characters. And now he's in this Oscar-winning movie where everyone's Asian, and it's representing so many people who have not been represented before. And it's such a fresh take on movies, too. We're definitely living in an era where everything's a remake, everything is a sequel, everything is a cinematic universe. So everything, everywhere, all at once, while being very hard to pronounce or say, is definitely a game changer of a movie. It was a great movie-going experience for me, and I feel that it's gonna change a lot about how movies are made going forward. Just creative shots, creative thoughts, weirdness, and just like a movie that doesn't require a huge budget. It didn't rely on stars. It brought in fantastic actors, but the most well-known person on the bill going into this was Jamie Lee Curtis, and she was a supporting actress. I'm not always the biggest fan of the Oscars, but I understand what it means to Hollywood, and this movie winning everything, completely sweeping, is a big deal. It matters a lot, socially and then personally too. I'm sure so many people that I can't relate to firsthand, but I see it, and it's so great to see them celebrate a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, getting the recognition it totally deserves. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Oscars.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. You expecting Sam Jackson show up with an eye patch and a saucy little leather number? Go.